All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to Why Are We Here? I'm your host, Spencer Crandall. On the pod today is Andy Mineo. What up, dude?
Yo, first of all, thank you for saying my name right. Second, it's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. We were on the road this weekend talking about the podcast. They were asking who was coming up. I said Mineo, and they were like, how do you say his name? And Jeff and I both looked at each other, and we referenced the song like, Mineo. Okay, great.
Say it
So,
with me.
yeah, exactly. So you have taught us. It's in your music, so it makes it easier. Yeah, man. How you doing?
I always know someone's bluffing when they say they're a fan, and then the biggest fan,
Dude,
Mineo.
Dude, it's so good to finally meet you.
Like, you've never even heard You Can't Stop Me. What are you talking about?
Yeah, if you haven't heard that one, you're not an OG. We were talking before you hopped on about the book Right Over My Left Shoulder. Little
Yeah,
David
I'm just
Goggins.
admiring the whole setup in general.
Yeah, we got a lot of random shit on the
Super
shelf.
Smash Bros.
Mm-hmm. I'm not
Which-
good at anything in this life except for Mario Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo 64.
I will smoke you in N64 Smash
My
Bros.
friend,
but
I've heard this so many times. I would love to see it. I want to be beat.
Who do you use? Who do you
You
use?
can pick my character. Doesn't matter.
Who do you use? But who do you go to?
I mean, genuinely anyone. Pikachu's great. Pikachu's kind of the go-to.
Pikachu is my go-to.
Okay, great. Battle of the Pikachus. The next time I see you after, COVID goes away.
Yeah.
November 19th? New York. You'll be there. Oh, yeah, I'll be in New York, November 19th. We'll invite you out to the show, and I challenge you to a game, unless you're also on tour, which is very highly likely.
Well, I have unfortunately moved out of New York.
Oh, Jeff, you set me up for failure.
Yeah.
When did you move?
Right before the pandemic, like top of 2020.
Okay. Where are you at now?
I'm in 2019, top of 2020. So we got here just in time, actually. It was perfect.
Where are you at?
I'm in Atlanta now.
Oh, nice.
Atlanta, where the studios are, and, just a lot of resources out here for me as far as the music stuff goes. And, I love it.
For sure, man. We were talking about the Goggins book. Have you read it?
I did. So every year we do the New York City bike tour. Me and my family, we go on like a 50-mile bike ride or whatever.
Oh, jeez.
And I popped it on and just listened to it the whole way. And I must have been 2 miles ahead of everybody.
Dude,
I
it'll
was
set you
just
on fire.
Juiced. Yeah. I was juiced up. And it's a crazy story.
Yeah.
And hearing the audiobook version between chapters, him and the guy who helped co-write it with him, they would almost like do a little podcast where he asked questions about the chapter so you get a little bit more info. It was great.
I read it at the top of this year, and I did like all the challenges with them. I got the sticky notes on the mirror. I like went in on it. It was a good read.
Really?
Yeah, or listen, actually. I loved listening to it. It was dope. It got me fired up.
Yeah, if you guys don't know who David Goggins is, just go look at his Instagram account and make sure no children are around.
Yeah, exactly.
And, get ready to put on your
running shoes, bro. He will
jog
convince
style.
you that you are ready to run, even though I haven't run in like a full calendar year.
Yeah, he convince you, and then if you feel tired, you're like, I'm only at 40%.
40%. Bro, I say it all the time. My friends are annoyed at this point, and I'm like, you just have to read the book. But I also don't want to come off as the guy that like is constantly like, you are a wuss, just keep going. But it's true. Like, our bodies have so much more capability than we even know. So it's a good tool for me. I try to use it often.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that also a golf pen?
It is a golf pen. It belongs to one of the cups up here. It's not up here today, but we just got all the little novelties. I tried to make a set that was like, me. So there's just a lot of random shit that is just very me.
That's what I tried to do for my album cover. Same concept. It was just like load the room, this like childhood bedroom with all the stuff from my childhood. So it had an N64.
Did you really? I was looking at it today and I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see with everything and the lighting.
It looks
But in the
fantastic.
original press photos that we did, you can see everything.
Oh, that's awesome. So is that's obviously for Neverland 2?
Yeah, Neverland 2 that comes out September 24th.
Dude, that's this Friday. Are you pumped?
I'm juiced. And I'm, you're also nervous. You get ready to drop a new project and you're like, what if the world hates this? And you're trying to think of marketing ideas and trying to make people care. And it's just a hard thing to do because, you got Lil Nas X. Like,
dude, Lil Nas X came around and just changed the game. He's so intimidating as a marketer. Like, he's a great artist. He makes great music. But the way every single TikTok gets me. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna check out that song. I gotta watch that video. It's too good.
I know. He crushes it. And
Yeah.
he's so self-aware
Oh, it's insane.
that like he gets in front of everything beforehand. You know, like he just won his award.
Yeah.
And the first thing he said is, shout out the gay agenda. First thing when he wins an award, and you're just like, oh my God, you can't defeat this kid ever.
Nope. He's so good, man. And that album is actually pretty good. I just listened to it. But I want to talk about your album called Neverland 2. Obviously, there's Neverland 1. What is the like connecting thread, or I guess why continue the Neverland story or narrative?
Yeah. For me, Neverland, the first one, was one of my favorite projects. It was kind of like a coming of age project for me in a little way. And I always thought there was more to that story to be told because of all the elements that were involved. You know, it was very like symbolic. And I think the older I get, the more I realize like there's certain things that are phases in your life, and then certain things that kind of become your life ethos. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you get done watching a documentary and you have like the documentary high.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm vegan now. Yeah. It's like,
dude, it's the Goggins high. It's the Goggins high. All of a sudden you're running every day and then it just tapers off.
That's right. And then sometimes there's certain things that influence you and they last your whole life. Right. And so like this Neverland theme, like this idea of just trying to stay childlike as life gets harder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and trying to keep that childlike awe and perspective in things. That's something that just sticks with me. And I mean, I have like a Dr. Seuss tattoo.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm like, I always think about it like my childhood and the things that I experienced and I think of is the thing that for me brings the most joy and most like sobriety in a way.
Yeah.
This sobriety of like, stay like that. Stay hopeful. Stay imaginative. Stay creative. Stay fearless. And so I think Neverland continues to talk about that. Neverland 2 is a continuation of that story. And, that's why I wanted to continue it.
Yeah. No, I love that.
I thought it would also make the fans excited, just to hear, like, to circle back around and revisit everything.
Absolutely. What from like Neverland 1 to Neverland 2, like, are you taking like a sonically different direction? Are you saying something different that you're really excited about? Like what about Neverland 2 feels like that next iteration of you, yourself, your artistry moving forward?
Well, I think my calling cards are always the same on my albums, which is like you're always going to get fun. You're always going to get personal and vulnerability. And so you get those things and you get both of those. That's a continuation. I think that the difference in topic now is that like I'm a married man, 7 years later, that's gone through a lot of different experiences with life, with pain, with loss, with faith, all those things.
Yeah. And
so, it's a continuation of that journey, and I'm in a different place of life, and hopefully that connects with people where they are now. But that's the cool thing about music. You could make something that people might connect with 5 years later.
Well, dude, that's the fun part of your story, and it's kind of how I feel like I got in the same way, which is like I find the hype music and like You Can't Stop Me or Coming In Hot, and then you dig deeper, and that's where I stayed, is because not only do you get the candy of those songs that you want to work out and go full Goggins with, but then you get the vulnerability and the one that you just put out, Nobody's Coming. I listened to it like 7 times this morning, and every time I found a new little nugget of like truth and especially vulnerability. And I feel like especially coming from the world that you come from and the world that I found you in, I think the reason I found you as a fan was because I was so sick of hearing Christian music, spiritual music, really anything in that genre that felt like I'm up here, please join me, versus, yo, I'm down here, anybody else? And you were one of the first guys, you, Lecrae, a couple other people who are good at what they do are like, yo, so sometimes I'm a piece of trash. Sometimes I have doubts. Sometimes I do this. And I was like, oh, me too. And those are the people that I connect with. And I'm just saying thank you, if nothing else. That's why I'm excited for the new music. The new song that is out is Nobody's Coming. And that one I really related to. It's like, bro, if you want change, be the change. Do something about it.
That's right. Yeah, and it I think we all think somehow that vulnerability will push people away from us. You know, because that's like our biggest fear is that like you show somebody who you really are and then they reject you for it.
Oh, nothing scarier.
Like, there's nothing scarier, right? Yeah. And what I've found, and that's happened to me before in my life, you know, like one of the most crushing moments of my life that happened. But I've found that most people are afraid, insecure, dealing with hurt, dealing with pain, shame, guilt, sadness, all these things that people carry, but there's not a social norm to share those things yet. Particularly for men, you know, that we just would get ridiculed if those things are ever to be shared. 100%. So I think some of the tide is turning on that, but I think that's why people go towards art, is because they say, finally, someone will say the things that I've been feeling. And we become conduits for people to finally have the freedom to feel.
Yeah.
Because I think everything else just gets shoved down and pushed down throughout their normal day, you know, and I think art unlocks some of that that freedom to feel, I guess.
Yeah, and what you talked about, especially for guys, is, and especially the way that I was raised, like traditional evangelical church, plus being a male, is like vulnerability was weakness, questions were weakness, and that's why it's so cool to have somebody like yourself that has kind of the traditionally like chest puffed out songs of "You Can't Stop Me" and "Coming in Hot," like I'm the shit, matched with the really cool balance of also here's what I'm going through. Those are the people to me that have been life-changing or life-giving, are the people who allow me to feel something or give me language or vocabulary to something that I'm feeling through the sharing of their experience. Is there anybody like that in your life, like that, flip that switch, an artist, a mentor, anybody like that?
Yeah, I think for me, there's a bunch of artists that do really well at bringing you in, storytelling. I would say guys like, I've always loved the Kanyes and like the Jay-Z's that I grew up with, because they're creatively excellent, storytelling. You know, Kanye would give you like something interesting sonically, so he'd explore a new territory because he's always pulling in musical influences from places that if you're a rap fan, you would never know existed. You know, it's like German psychedelic punk rock from the 70s. And he's like, yeah, that's my music now. So you think Kanye's like, oh my God, he's coming up with these sounds. Like, no, he's curating from a different.
Yeah, that's the word, curation. 100%.
So he's pulling from obscure places that are really refreshing and new for us. So I always gravitated towards Kanye's like individuality like that. But he always told stories on his projects too, where he'd be vulnerable. He's like, yo, I got my first check and I went and I blew it on jewelry, even though I know it's mad irresponsible. I think there's a charm to that, like vulnerability and self-aware ignorance.
Yeah,
you know?
No, absolutely.
So, like on the new album, I have like this song where I say, you know, like, well, at least you know I'm always inconsistent. You say that my phone's just like my mistress. Then you try to say I never listen. What you said, I missed it. It's like, it's kind of like these humorous realizations. Or the chorus says, you say I'm impatient. You say I'm forgetful. You say that I'm too wild, but at least our life's eventful. You say I complicate things when they could be simple, but ain't you sick of talking about me, baby? Please tell me something that I don't know. I'm working on it.
That's good, bro.
I always like pull from those. So Kanye has that humor that I always pulled
tongue in cheek.
I think guys like Kendrick have like a very artful ability of taking like the craft of rapping and like making it newer. You know what I'm saying? So he's always playing like a jazz musician with cadences and trying to like
are just
trying to bring fresh new elements, trying to bring fresh things while holding on to like the elements of hip hop. I love, and this is a buddy of mine actually, John Belly, and I love the way he takes like hip hop and pop sounds and tries to make them come together into
You
one
can't
world.
talk about John Bellion on this podcast because I'll fall in love with you. You have to be careful. That's my dude.
Yeah.
Bro, he
That's the homie,
one of my top. I mean, as far as the complete package of songwriting and sonics and production,
Yeah.
he's an animal. The guy is crazy.
Yeah.
And again, talk about vulnerability of some of the songs, like Conversations with My Wife or that Hand of God outro. He just does some things that are like, damn. Like, when you said that, it made me uncomfortable of how vulnerable you are. But that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, as a huge... Go ahead, sorry.
Stupid Deep is like one of my favorite songs from him. So good. Yeah. It's finding ways to take like big concepts and say them simply in a way that cut through.
It's the hardest thing in songwriting.
It is, right?
Yeah.
That's it. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many influences I have, and I pulled from different places throughout the years. But yeah, John's the homie, man. And he sends me stuff sometimes before it comes out, and I get to take a peek. And it's always, you feel like, oh, this is dope. We get to share music with each other. We have such a respect for each other, and hear some things, and I'll send him stuff. And but yeah, like outside of the whole music thing, like he's just a really good dude.
That's awesome. I love to hear when somebody you love is just nice. They're just a good person. What's
Just
your
a good human.
What's your hot take on Donda? If you're such a Kanye stan, I have to know where you stand on Donda.
Yeah. Well, I think the first listen for me was difficult because I had heard the versions on all like the listening parties.
You went to one of those, correct? In ATL?
I was at one of the listening parties, and the sound was so loud that it was like painful.
Really?
It was very painful because they had it cranked up so loud, it was like my ears were bleeding.
Oh.
And I wasn't the only one. Like I was with a couple people that 2-3 minutes in, they were like, "I'm leaving." They had to just immediately walk out. So it was crazy. But I was also at the listening party for in 2016, whatever that album, Life of Pablo. Same thing. It was just like he just likes it really loud. He wants people to feel it.
Yeah.
And it made it a tough listening experience. So that kind of tainted the way I experienced the song. It was like, what is it? I can't even listen.
Yeah.
So, and then hearing the different versions of the song, it changed the way I had my like first listening experience with the project.
Sure. You almost had to like forget those and then relearn. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a long album. It's like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But, I think there's such beautiful moments on there. Like he taps into that thing, like makes you feel something emotional, and he finds a way to make it cool and interesting. Like, and he's really a curator too, man. Yeah. Like a lot of the coolest stuff on the albums have nothing to do with him. It's just him.
Yeah. That's what I love about Kanye is he's like introducing people to new artists. He's also putting on some people. I mean, even like Jay-Z, The Weeknd, they don't need any help. But I think what he does really well is he sets people up to win. He gives them moments in songs to like shine where they are the best at. And that's right. It's weird because he's such a guy that's, I think when people think of people with big egos, maybe he comes into the conversation. But that actually is like a real selfless move to be like, yo, take this verse or take this moment in the song. It's actually really interesting for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's at the core of who he is. He's like, he has exquisite taste and he's a curator.
Yeah.
And that's what good curators do. They utilize their taste to put the right pieces in place.
Yeah.
And know when they like have weaknesses and just be like, all right, you do this better. You come in and take it over. But at the end of the day, he's the one who gets all the credit.
Yeah, of course.
So it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if someone else did everything. It's just like, you're a genius. And I think the genius is in putting the pieces there.
Yeah. No, it's super interesting. I love that word curator. That's perfect.
That's exactly perfect. What it is.
I'm going to throw a couple things at you that I've heard you say or that I've heard about some of your projects and stuff. And I'd just like you to talk on them because I think they're super interesting. One of them is on your project, The Arrow. I heard you talk about the tagline being, I hope I get the benefit of the doubt. Can you maybe talk about what that means to you and like why you said that or what that really is trying to communicate?
Yeah.
Because I loved it.
Yeah. I love that. Obviously like we have that phrase, we give the benefit of of the doubt. And I said, I hope I get the benefit of the doubt in the same way, but flipping it on its head a little bit, as I was, and still am in a lot of ways, just like processing the doubts of my faith. I think, this will probably be a longer conversation, but in short, I, in my early 20s, essentially had this moment of being like, I'm going to give my life to my faith. And the version of Christianity that I have come to know and understand is an evangelical American version of Christianity.
Right. And
just with time, and growth and change in perspective, I've begun to doubt some of the things that I've learned.
Yeah.
And question things. And I think those are natural things to question your faith, or as your life changes, for you to re-examine things. And I think we should do that in general, right? Like about anything.
Yeah.
But I think people aren't really willing to talk about those things because we have equated the idea of doubt to be negative.
Yeah.
So like, never have doubts, never have any change of opinion or thought. And so I, as I was going through those things and am going through those things, I publicized it.
Yeah.
Like I worked through it on that album, like me dealing with doubt and fear and anxiety. And what if I let go of the things I've built my life on? Like, will I fall forever, or will I find something new? And so, that phrase was, I hope I get the benefit of my doubt, and I think I have, over time,
Yeah. I think, a reason that I've been drawn to her music, and the reason that that one just spoke to me is I'm the exact same way. I grew up, super traditional evangelical Christian, and the more that I looked into things and heard from other places of the world, other places of the country, other people who were like, have you ever thought of it this way? That's interesting, but did you know the context of that verse or whatever? It blew my mind. And immediately my brain's like, well, we're going to hell. Like, you had doubts, so it's over. And I didn't grow up with anybody from my church or anything telling me, like, no, that's a part of the process. And, one day you got to find your own faith. There's kind of like your parents' version. Then there's the version that you think should be out there because what everyone puts on Instagram. And then there's the real thing, which is like you owning it and finding versions of it. And it's okay if you differ with people. It's okay to doubt. And I just had never experienced that. I never had anybody in my life. I remember being at these youth camps, and I would ask questions like, I know we just talked about this, but somebody at my school said this. And they'd be like, we'll talk about that after. And we just wouldn't talk about it after. Yeah. What the hell? That's funny. Like, I know that you say the earth was made in this amount of days, but I have a buddy, and his parents are atheists, and they said this. They're like, and we're so grateful for you asking that question. Just come up to us right afterwards. And I was like, standing there by stage, like, yo, where'd everybody go? Yeah. And so I just really related to that. Like I hope I get the benefit. It would have been
nice if they were just like, dude, I have no idea.
100%. And that's why I think the vulnerability of, especially in your music, being like, sometimes I don't know, and that's okay. It's not a slap in the face to God. I think it's actually, if anything, glorifying the Creator to be like, you gave me curiosity, so I'm going to use it to its fullest extent, even if that means calling into questions some of the things that I've always known.
Or to explore deeper.
Yeah.
Or to not settle for like pat answers or little bow ties that we try to put on things to make it nice and neat. 100%. I think for me, faith has become more about not having the right answers, but like just asking better questions. And I think when you're in that position to continue to ask questions, I think like that's a really great place to be, because one, it humbles you.
Yeah.
It says, I don't have the answers. It also makes you hold a lot lighter to your opinions because you could be wrong.
True.
It also makes you less critical and judgmental of other people, which I think is one of the things I've hated about. I say a line in this new album. I said, Jesus saved me from Christians, the ones that stay forgetting. Before you hold a grudge, you shall hold a beer. Before you hold a stone, you shall hold a mirror. Like, the reason I say that is because there's so many people that feel that they're so dead right about the mystical, never-ending grandeur of God. You're so certain about everything that you basically get to, crap on everybody else as they're trying to figure it out.
No, it blows my mind. It's crazy.
This is bugged out.
Yeah.
So, and when I look at Jesus throughout Scripture, like he answers 3 questions directly, but he asks like 170 questions.
Yeah, he answers questions with questions. That's his thing.
That's his thing. So I'm like, that's actually a lot more interesting to me because it says like we continue to search, we continue to act, we continue to be challenged in the way we think. And I'm like, man, there's something intriguing to me about that that I think I'm just more drawn to now than being like, this is right theology, this is the right way to think, we're right, you guys are wrong. So yeah, I've just been working through that, because I think I came from a group of people that initially taught me about faith. They were very focused on being right.
Yeah, dude.
Just the kind of people I don't want to be around very often because it just.
I love that. I also heard you say that the hardest part of success is success, and you went on to kind of talk about the criticism and the praise and how to stay real and some of the pressures of success. You've seen, I think what a lot of people would kind of say is a immense amount of success in the last couple of years. How has that changed the way that you make art, or has it changed the way that you make art? How has that pressure felt, especially as you're making a new album, to be coming off the success of gold singles and stuff like that? Would love to hear what you have to say on that.
Yeah, I think people don't really tell you about this, but like there is a issue with success. Because nobody cries for, the Madoff kids, or you know what I'm saying? Like nobody cries for rich people or people that are successful because they're like, shut up, you have everything we want. But I think there is a difficulty in success is that there's an expectation to, 1, continue to be successful and do it again. And then 2, you become more and more under a microscope with success. So more eyeballs equals more pressure. And then 3, shortened time frames for things. So, for example, if I'm an artist that nobody knows, I can work on and tinker my first album and song for 10 years. If that album is successful, then it's like, hey, do it again in 6 months.
I talk about this all the time. It sucks how you get your whole life to put out the first thing, and then the second it works, people want, version 2 or album 2 or single 2 tomorrow to feed, and the algorithms and all the, the stuff that is real. But the amount of time it took to make the first thing, to cut it into a 100th is very difficult. Yeah,
that's right. So it is a difficult thing to try to figure out. And that's when you have to start going, oh, if I need to pick up the pace on this thing, or do I need to pick up the pace on this?
Yeah.
How successful do I want to be? Do I want to,
that's an interesting question.
Then you have to start.
How successful do I want to be?
It's
something you don't think about until you start to taste it. And you're like, wait, do I want to be the guy who can't go to the grocery store? Do I want to be the guy that is like Kanye, where every single human being knows who you are, where you are, what you do, what you eat, what you say? Like, is that the win?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, do I need a bodyguard everywhere I go? Like, do I want fans waiting in front of my house? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's, so there's a certain level of like, you have to be okay with things.
Sure.
And figure out what it is you really want. Like, no, I want to go all the way to the top. Or it's like, you know what? I just want to be able to make enough money to do what I love. And, so I think that's important with success. And to just, I think one of the hardest parts about success is to not believe that you are your success. Like that you are your career, because I think that's such a volatile thing to build a life and an identity on. Because you see how these things go, right? Like you have a huge song, everyone knows you, loves you. And if like your emotional health is attached to that, that is volatile.
Yeah.
Because, you know how it goes. A song is done in a year or two, and then it's like, nobody cares. You're like, oh my God, is my life over? So I think it's important to continue to build a life outside of music and just kind of hold not buy into your own hype so that you can stay grounded, and so that this is what happens with NBA players. Like, they build their whole life around being an NBA player, and then they blow an ACL, and then they're like, I have no idea who I am.
Yeah,
they spiral into a depression because their life and their identity, football players, whoever.
Yep.
We all struggle with this. So I think that's something to be mindful of as you're pursuing your dreams.
Yeah, I think that's very wise, and I love that. Another thing was, I heard you talk about a mentor in your life giving you a little piece of advice, or just kind of talking about unity versus purity. And like how we're called to do both, yet they're diametrically opposed. And I love how you kind of explain this. Do you mind going into that?
Yeah, sure. Michael Keller was a mentor and friend of mine. That's Tim Keller. He's a pastor in New York. It's his son. We would go on these bike rides in Central Park, and he, I was telling him how I've been dealing with these things. Like, oh man, I really feel like I get eaten alive sometimes by the people that are supposed to be Team Andy.
You're like, what the hell?
Like, yeah. And he said, well, here's the interesting thing is that there's, for Christians, I have a Christian background. So he said, for Christians, we're called to unity and purity, but those things are opposed to each other. They need to both exist, but they oppose each other. So one group of people wants to say, we are pure. We have the pureness of doctrine. We do it the right way. And therefore you guys have to stay out, so it's like, that's why there's 9 million versions of churches and denominations, because one group says, no, this is the right way. Another goes, no, this is this baptism or this thing or whatever. Right. And they all make their own versions. But then there's also supposed to be a unity, which says, oh, we're all brothers and sisters. We're all connected. We're all on the same team. And so he actually used this example. He said, I think the Catholic Church does unity really well. Because anywhere you go in the world, you're going to get the same preaching and teaching experience, right? Because it's kind of all unified in that direction. But sometimes there's, a lack of purity there with obviously, scandal and stuff that's happened. And then there's scandal everywhere. So all my Catholic friends, like, don't come for me.
Yeah.
We all got scandal.
This is a safe place. You're good.
Yeah, for real. And then some of these guys in the evangelical church feel like they have the pureness of doctrine. We're reformed, the Reformation from the Catholic Church and stuff. And then, a lack of unity is like so clearly evident. And it's loaded with scandal, just like anything that's corrupted.
But that is a good example, because I feel like it points to, just because you're really good at one thing doesn't mean it's the whole thing. Like, you can work on each part. And when you were talking about that, I love those things that kind of hurt your brain, like those little paradoxes of like, you need to be both together and also pure. It's hard. It's hard to do both.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's why I think I hold, like I was telling you earlier, I think I hold less strongly to my opinions because I think I'm more aware now than ever that, like, we are all wrong to a degree. We're all messed up to a degree.
Yeah. And
my hope is, like, we're all just trying to figure it out. So let's be kind to each other as we do that.
Yeah.
Like, just saying, like, there's groups of people that at one point in time I thought, like, oh, I could never learn from these people.
Yep.
I could never hang out with these people. And it had nothing to do with, like, race. It was more theology or beliefs.
They believe that? What the,
Right. And, it's just like from some of the leaders I would listen to.
Sure.
They'd be like, don't learn from these people. And
they are the black sheep and they are the heretics.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. And now it's like, those are the people I want to hear it from the most, because they were on to something else that I didn't see at the time.
Yep.
I think that's part of people's faith journeys, man. Like, I wish that was more advertised, and that's what I hope albums like The Arrow and stuff do, is helps people see like this thing is complex and it has ups and downs. And
Yeah.
I always say this is funny, like early on in my faith journey, the thing that like guys my age were like at that time were worried about was like, don't watch porn, don't have sex with your girlfriend, and try not to swear. And now the stuff that you see at this age is like people going through divorces, their friends committing suicide. Like it's a different set of issues,
bro.
And it's just like, it was so funny that I thought at one point in time, these things were the only important things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like with a little bit of time and age, you see, there's so much more to life.
Yeah.
So many other things that faith has to speak to. And sometimes these nice little cookie cutter boxes we like to put in don't hold everything.
Right. I think what you're talking about too is like this maturation into like a larger understanding of grace, and that like we're all at different points. I didn't understand that for a long time, and I've actually apologized to people in my life for my early self, really just being this like, no, you don't understand. You're wrong. This is the way. This is the thing. And now that I'm on this side, and they're kind of like, welcome to the party, friend. I'm like, yeah, that's my bad. I didn't understand. So now when I talk to people and they might think something differently than I do on either side, the super traditional or the complete deconstruction, whatever that side is, I'm just like, yeah, man, I get it. I totally understand why you'd think that. Your experiences, your life, your teachers, everything's led you to that point, 100%. With no judgment, just love, like, let's talk about it.
For sure. I think you can get a lot further with that, than anything else.
Yeah. Amen, dude. I have a little deck of cards here that I like to kind of transition into. They are just some of the bigger, weirder, crazier questions that I just like to ask people. So I'm going to hit you with a couple if you're ready. All right. What is the most important piece of advice you'd give to someone starting out in your line of work?
Oh, actually, so I was at a wedding the other day and someone asked me this, like, what do you do?
What do you say in that moment? Like someone who's never met you, you're just like, I'm a rapper. Like, how do you get into that conversation?
Yeah. Oh, that they don't know what I do. Yeah, you usually say, like, I just say it flat out, like, I make music. And then they say, what kind of music? And I'm like, rap music. And they're like, okay, are you the engineer? Like they never think I'm the rapper. They always think like, oh, so you're like a producer. I'm like, no, I'm the artist. And they're like, so you play guitar? God. Yeah, that's usually always an awkward one. Yeah. But I have stories for that for days. But what I said to this person was, I think there's two things you should focus on, and they have like, you could unpack each one of those very far. I think it's important to try to develop style and substance. I think there's two parts of art, right? One is the aesthetic of art. It's like the gift of being able to sing or to rap, or the way that you look. The thing that just touches people on an instinctual art level. Yeah. And then there's substance, which is the things that you communicate and talk about and share. And I think if both of those things get tuned up properly, I think you have a real good chance of cutting through the noise of 10 billion artists and finding an audience of people that relate to you or connect to you. So for your style, I think that's curation. I think it's having taste of all of your influences and figuring out what's going to be my unique voice and trying things, experimenting and failing a lot to come across something that's unique and interesting. And I would say the same thing about fashion, about your approach, about your marketing. And then the substance piece is like your why. Who are you as an artist? Like, what do you want to talk about? And is it true to you? Does it come from your heart? Because I think people can sniff out when it's not real. Yeah. When you're just regurgitating what you think is cool or what other people want. Yeah. And so I always tell people, like, there's a lot to unpack in those, and maybe one day I'll try to do some sort of, I don't know, video teaching on infographic. What I've learned. Huh? No, I said infographic or something. Yeah, but I think it's true, man. Those two things are like the things you got to really kind of hone in on and then take years and time to tweak them. And I think you have a good shot.
Yeah. Well, what you talked about with failure, I think is just the most underrated part of that. It's really hard to tell somebody, and I'm always telling this to myself, is like, the only way I've ever gotten better is just trying. And it's very rare that when you first try, you're good. And it's just scary, right. But you got to go for it. For you, was there a moment, not necessarily like a song or an album, but like, was there a phase or time period where you felt like you turned this corner? You're like, oh, okay, I chiseled away enough where it's really me. Like, I've been this, or I've been a Diet Coke version of this, or at least for me, that's how I started, was, okay, I'll be what's on the radio. Everyone's like, yeah, we have that. Like, we have 9 Sam Hunts. We have 9 Luke Combs. Why are you different? And then eventually, I feel like when you chip away and you work on the 2 that you talked about, eventually you can kind of say, oh, I'm this and this and this, and you curate. Was there a moment or a season for you where you finally felt like you hit that threshold or that stride?
I think probably around 2011, like with my first mixtape, I feel like I was able to touch on some things, but a lot of it was still mimicking my influences. Sure. And I think from that point forward, like every project, I've found a way to import more and export. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, that isn't me. That was just for that time. So I think like you always get glimmers of it, and I think I'm always trying to refine that. Yeah. You know, more and more with every project, every album. But I think lately we've found like language to specify the things that are unique about me, which we've never done. You just kind of live your life and you do your thing, and then you ask people like, yo, what do you think of when you think of me? And they always say, I always think fun and personal. Like that's the thing people always say to me, like, you're always a ton of fun, but you're also very personal and vulnerable. Yeah. And I was like, that is a calling card. I guess I do that, right? And sometimes it takes people from the outside that aren't you to be able to point out the things you do, because they can see it a lot more clearly. Yeah. And I think now we've kind of honed it into like, all right, I've done some of these things over the years, but now let's try to brand, which is just basically a dirty word for storytelling. How do I make my brand or my story consistent? What are those things I'll consistently communicate so that people can connect with it? And so it's like, even today I picked out an outfit. I'm like, what am I going to wear? I was like, I want things that communicate me, right? Yeah. So I'm like, I have a Jerky Boys t-shirt on, right? Like I grew up listening to those Jerky Boys things, that they're always funny and goofy. And then I have like a Capital hat on, which is like my favorite brand from Japan. It's like a Japanese clothing brand that I love.
And every piece tells a story.
Yeah. My favorite shoe of all time, the Air Force One, is on me. You know, it's like
just the classic.
Just a classic. That is hello. Yeah. And so every time you interact with somebody, you're telling a story, and I'm more conscious of those things now. Yeah. Like, is this a story that I want to communicate, and is it true to me?
Right. And that has to come from trial and error, correct? I mean, eventually you get done with a conversation with someone, they're like, oh, you're like this. And you're like, no. Like, what do you mean? Yeah. Like, well, you wear these kinds of clothes, or Jeff and I are always talking about this. Like, oh, if I wear that to this, is that giving off the wrong message? Or if I say that here, you have to be very cognizant, and it's not something you think of when you're going to be an artist, because you're like, well, I'm just going to do me. But it's so interesting, the little things that people pick up on, and 1,000 little decisions make you and your brand. So that's awesome. I think that's a great answer.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like you'll talk to somebody, they'd be like, I care about art. I care about whatever. And then you go in their house and they have like TJ Maxx art on the wall. It's like, you don't care about.
Exactly. Your decisions are actually what informs people about who you are, not what you say. It's your actions. Yeah.
That's right. And I think I've become more aware of that, and my team has become more aware of that over the years. And we're like, all right, so how do we communicate these things? Yeah. And it's part of the process. Yep. Even that is part of the process of figuring out, like, oh, we've been doing that wrong.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and that makes me that much more excited for the music on Friday. So that's dope. Here's the next one. When you're laughing the hardest, who is usually with you?
John Words Played Etiola, without question.
I don't know. He's the funniest guy in your life.
Yeah, we just there's certain friendships that you have where there's a safety there. that you can say anything to get a laugh, and you know that that person will never judge you or think crazy. There's a safety in our friendship because we really love each other and know each other, and we'll just say the craziest stuff to get each other going. But yeah, I'm lucky to have a couple really funny friends in my life. Him, Justin. My wife is actually hilarious. We laugh a lot. But yeah,
that's amazing, dude. I love those. I always ask because that's it just says a lot about like who you surround yourself with, and I love that answer. That's great.
Yeah.
What are the 3 biggest ideas on your bucket list? What are the things you're like, oh, I have to do this before I kick it?
Dang, that's a really good question.
And there's no wrong answers, but this one's it's a big one.
Yeah. You know what, man? This is a weird one, but like, I feel like so blessed with the life that I've lived. I've gotten to do so many amazing things, like where I really don't have that like anxiousness to like get it all done, because I'm like, dude, I've been given so many incredible opportunities to travel the world, you know, like, yeah. But
well, and that to me is what I hope the answer is like, I have none because I love my life, so that's great.
Yeah. I mean, there's some cool stuff I want to do. You know, I would love to like scuba dive. You know, something like that. Like, I'd love to do that and be like trained to be able to do things like that.
What I love though is the urgency that you talked about. Is like, I feel good. I'm not like, okay, if I don't get this done by the end, it's like, I love it.
Yeah, and I think that's it. My wife asked me that before, like, what do you feel? And I would say all these things, and a lot of it has to pertain to music and art. I want to play Barclays Center. I want to, you know. And she was just, and I asked her, what do you think? And she's like, I'm good. She's like, I don't want to die, but if I did die, I feel happy with my life because I loved really hard.
Yeah.
People, I married somebody I like, you know. And I was like, wow. And that was like 6 or 7 years ago. And that really stuck with me to think about what are the things that make a full life.
Yeah.
And I think I've started to find that over the years.
Yeah. I was actually at a funeral this last Friday, and it's one of those things that you absolutely are gut-wrenched about. But there is this little positive thing of, it snaps everyone immediately into urgency. You're like, oh yeah, like this game ends. And it also showed me she lived such an incredible life, and nobody was like, she had this many streams, she won this award. It was just like, she was an incredible mom, an incredible sister. Like the things that a lot of times actually, you know, takes away, when you're focused on music, takes away from some of these things. Those were the things she was remembered by. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what's important. It was a really good, like, re-centered North Star finding kind of a moment.
That's
so
right.
Just retweeting out loud what you're saying, because I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, but if I had 2 right now, it's beat you in Super Smash.
Dude, I'm so sorry to hear that. It's going to suck that you're going to never do that in your entire life. Do you want me to take my own lives? Like, or do you want to go even, straight up, 5 lives?
5 lives.
Okay. All right. I think you'll regret that. What is your biggest motivator? What is the thing? Because we talked about success earlier. Like, I think you get to a certain level of success. I think early on, a lot of it's like, I want to hear a song on the radio. I want to, but to sustain success like you are, and to sustain the quality and quantity of the work that you're doing, there has to be a certain driver. What is that for you, or what are those for you?
Yeah. I would say 2 things. If I were to answer very honestly and in almost a shameful way, I would say fear is a massive motivator for me. And not that fear is negative, because I actually think that's something that we screw up, is like we say certain emotions are only negative or only positive, right? Like fear is a negative thing, and it's not. Fear is just an emotion that tells you what's going on in your heart, and it can be a good thing, right? Someone walks on a plane with an AK-47, you're afraid. Your fear will help you protect yourself and get to, you know. But I think fear can be negative if it controls you in a way that causes you to lose focus of what's real and what's really important.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I would say fear that I'm running out of time. I need to accomplish more. Fear that I won't reach my potential.
Dude, that one just lightning bolt through my body is the like, will I really never be this thing that I know I could be? Will I really never open up my heart enough and really let people in? Will I ever keep the gate even 10% up, or will I ever get the moment where people are like, that was it, you know?
That's right. And I think those are huge motivators for me. Fear that I won't reach my potential. So a desire to reach my potential is massive. In music, I think now, like I've achieved a certain level of success that like is so dope. Like I'm able to do what I love for a living and employ my friends.
Yeah.
And like I work with people that I love, and I'm able to live a life that keeps me comfortable enough to not have to worry where my next check is always coming from. Now, I'm not like insanely rich. I just have enough. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing that me and my wife have because of that. So I'm like incredibly grateful. And now I desire to maintain that and allow that to grow. But a big motivator for me is to like bring people along with me. People that I employ who are my friends and like I consider them family, I want them to have houses. Yeah. I want them to not worry about money. I want them to have a life that they are proud of, and that we spent our time and our energy creating something that did good in the world, and that we were able to make a living. And you know, like that's
legacy, bro, is the selflessness of like bringing people along with you and giving them jobs and giving them opportunities to do it for themselves and to give their kids like that opportunity. That is next level. That's amazing. Yeah. That's a
massive motivator.
Yeah.
Like lately I've been, cause I drive a 2010 Honda Civic, right? I got this old car because when we needed to get cars after we moved out of New York City, it was like, all right, well, what are we going to get? And I went and I was immediately like, all right, I'm buying a Tesla. And then I thought about it and I was like, wait, I need to own a house before I own a car. I should probably do that because that's going to appreciate. And this is right. So I just bought the cheapest car I could from my brother, which was a Honda Civic, and we started buying houses instead with the money I was going to buy a Tesla. And so we've been on this roll of just like buying houses and doing real estate. And now I'm kind of like, all right, I know I did like the Dave Ramsey thing for a second. I need a real car now. Yeah. As I'm like looking at cars to be like, all right, I'm finally going to get one. I'm like, dang, I feel crazy if I'm driving a nice car and the people that I employ and work with every day aren't like, might not like be able to buy. And it makes me be like, until they can buy one, I don't want to buy one.
That's interesting.
But it's kind of this tension that I have where I'm like, all right, I might need to just stay here in the Civic for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and it's like this, it's kind of like, because also once you get up there, it feels like you're there or like there's not another place to go. And I think the longer you stay in the Civic, you're like, I'm on the come up. I'm the underdog. I'm the like, I try to do that to myself all the time. Like, well, we could do that, but I kind of like that that's a little shittier because it makes me that's one more reason that like doubt me or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I love stuff like that. That's awesome.
Goggins would drive the Civic into the ground.
Bro, Goggins would just run everywhere. He would never
be like, what's a Civic? Well, I can just run there.
Dude.
Stay hard.
Stay hard. That gives chills to my body because it just makes me feel like I'm not doing anything. What do you think your superpower is? Like the thing that you do better than anybody?
Charm. I think.
I feel it. Can I be honest? I feel charmed. What? I feel charmed as hell.
I actually think that's my superpower. Like, somehow, I don't know where, maybe because I'm Italian, I know how to connect with people. And like, I don't know, charm them. Last night, it was a perfect example. We were coming home from this event. We went to a wedding. And my wife says stuff like this. She's like, Andy, sometimes you can like insult somebody and make them like you.
Yeah,
you know, like I'll make fun of them,
and then your superpower is charm, exactly.
Yeah, and she's like, "How do you do that?" And I was like, "I didn't even realize I was doing it, but I like tease somebody and laugh and hug them at the same time, and So last night we make these little packs, me and my wife. There's a lot of homeless people, you know, in New York City, in Atlanta, and we come across them often. We don't feel super comfortable about giving money.
Sure.
So we found this this ministry that like helps people, and what they do is they show you like the things that people need on the street, like socks, Vaseline, toothbrush, toothpaste, now a mask, things that are like super practical for if you're living on the street. Right? And so we just make these little packs. We write a little note in them, and we leave them in the car in the
that's so smart.
The little armrest.
Yeah.
And we come to this intersection usually where people are waiting on our way home. And last night we're driving home and we're at the stoplight. A guy comes to the door, and I roll down the window and I say to the guy, "Hey man, I have some things here. I have some socks, Vaseline, toothbrush, toothpaste. It's not money. Is that something that you would be interested in having? Because I'm not just gonna be like, take this, you know, like I don't want that, you know."
Right.
So I ask him, and he's like, "Yeah, man, that'd be great." And I give him one, and I'm like, "All right, brother, God bless you, man." I roll up the window, and she's like, "How do you just do that? How do you just?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And I didn't know what she was saying, but she was like, just the way you could connect with somebody. And I was like, maybe it's an Italian thing that we just are schmoozers at heart.
Yeah, but what a superpower. And I think the cool part is there are people who can do that, but then it doesn't translate to their music. And what I do think is real is that the charm, and especially like the humor and personality and the personalness that you talked about earlier, that does translate in music. And that is way harder than I think either one of us even know how to do. So just kudos to you, man. That is your superpower.
Okay.
I agree.
I'll also admit that I feel tremendously arrogant saying that out loud.
No, it is
and almost like
self-aware.
shameful.
It's just self-aware. Nope.
I just think that's what it probably is if I had to guess.
And I think it'd be weird if you knew that about yourself and didn't say it. So I'm glad you said it, and it's on the record. The most charming man on the podcast.
Use most charming man.
We're gonna send you one of those tiny trophies. Most charming.
Yeah.
Man. There you go. All right, this is my last question for you. Then I'll let you go. You've been super gracious with your time, guys. If you're listening, please make sure to check out Neverland 2 on September 24th. I am really stoked just as a fan. So I'm definitely gonna check it out. My last question for you, man, is what is the detail about your story that very few people know?
That's an interesting one.
And it doesn't have to be anything crazy, just whatever comes to your mind. I didn't know. Jeff was telling me that you had a different rap name, which is very common, like Sea Light.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Well, it's weird because I had like a couple songs under that name.
Yeah.
So all right, this is interesting.
Hit it.
So I'll tell you about that name. So when I was a kid, like real young, 8, 9, 10 years old, like me and my friends in this little neighborhood that we lived in these townhouse apartments. And that's when I started rapping because we would make parodies of other people's songs, and we would just put like funny lyrics in there to try to make each other laugh. So we're writing these rap songs and trying to say the wildest stuff. And we were all like pretty chubby kids. Me, my friend Ryan, my buddy Mike, Casey, we're all chubby guys. And we were like, yo, we need to be called the Fat Camp. You know what I'm saying? Like we are.
I
the
laughed
fat
because
camp.
I would have just been perfectly an addition to the Fat Camp.
Yeah, that's it. We're just chubby kids who like Burger King a whole lot. And it was like this humorous way of like relating to each other and being self-aware and fun. And we were, the Fat Camp. And they were like, we were coming up with rap names for each other. As a joke, and someone called me Cellulite, and they were like, "You should be C Light, short for cellulite." And so, like, we all were dying laughing. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Cellulite, and this is fat free, and this is we all had these names." And so that was like a joke nickname for me. And then I continued to learn how to rap, and like, I didn't want to like come up with my own rap name.
Sure.
Because I always thought that was kind of cheesy. Like, I'm the wordsmith or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just Andy. And this was a nickname that was given to me. Right. And so I kept that. And then it finally got to the point where I was like, no, I'm actually kind of getting serious with music. I should probably have something else instead of this. And so that's when I was like, I'm just going to be my regular name, Andy Mineo. But it is funny. That's a detail that if you're new to my music, you know, you wouldn't know.
Just drumming up the past for you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. Well, as a I would have joined Fat Camp in a heartbeat. But as just a real fan and just somebody who loves the vulnerability, loves the music, and loves your story, man, just big thank you. Thank you for coming on the week of your album coming out. And for real, if you're listening to this, please check it out. Neverland 2, September 24th. Mineo, it's been a pleasure, man. Appreciate you. The second best Super Smash Bros. Player in the country. It's so it's a pleasure to have you on.
I'm guessing you're in Denver.
I'm in Nashville. And we'll be in ATL November 6th and 7th, 5th and 6th and 7th. So you've been called out. We'll see what happens.
All right. Well, I'm coming to Nashville to do rehearsals at Soundcheck.
Oh.
Around that time. And it looks like you'll be. Yeah. So just have Jeff hit me and I'll come to you or you'll come to me.
We'll do it, man. I can't wait. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, brother. Take it easy, man.
You too, man. All right, y'all, that was Andy Mineo on the pod. Make sure to check out Neverland 2, the brand new album that came out September 24th. If you're listening in the future, it's also out. So check it out. Tell your friends, your neighbors, your orthodontist, your grandma about the pod. Make sure to subscribe, like, share, comment, all the things. Tag us on Instagram at Why Are We Here? What's the... Why Are We Here _podcast. There you go. Now you're not going to forget it because I messed it up. There you go. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next week. Why Are We Here?